In a world where pets are called fur babies and treated like family, admitting you don't actually love your pet is social suicide. It marks you as cold-hearted, maybe even sociopathic. But there's a huge silent group of people out there who own pets and genuinely don't love them. Not in the way society demands anyway. They go through the motions, they provide the care, they might even post a photo to avoid judgment, but inside, they feel nothing like that intense bond everyone else seems to have. They watch friends weep over their dogs, spend thousands on vet bills without a second thought, and plan their whole lives around their animals. And they just feel confused. Confused about how a pet became more important than human relationships and personal freedom. And then comes the shame, the crushing shame that they must be missing some fundamental capacity for love. If you're watching this, you're either one of these people feeling a wave of relief that you're not alone, or you adore your pets and just can't imagine how anyone could live with an animal and not feel overwhelming love. But here, that's the raw truth nobody wants to say out loud. People who don't love their pets are monsters. They're not broken. They simply represent specific psychological profiles that show how different minds process attachment, responsibility, and emotion. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will shatter everything you thought you knew about emotions, attachment, and this dangerous belief that there's only one right way to feel about animals. Let me ask you something that will make pet lovers very uncomfortable. How much of the overwhelming emotion people show for their pets is real, spontaneous feeling versus a learned performance of what a good pet owner is supposed to feel? When someone calls their dog their child or says they love their cat more than most humans, is that the whole truth? Or have we created a culture where over-the-top pet devotion has become a social currency, a way to prove you're a good person? And here's a question that might make you question everything. If you do love your pet intensely, have you ever really examined if that emotional investment is filling a void in your human connections? Is it just easier to love something that can't reject or challenge you? Is the unconditional acceptance from an animal serving needs that authentic human relationships would better fulfill? These questions get to the core of why some people don't love their pets, and the answers reveal something profound about our culture. To understand this, we have to acknowledge the absolutely crushing cultural pressure around pet ownership today. Modern pet culture, especially in the West, has become almost like a religion in its intensity. Pets aren't just animals anymore. They're family, they're children, they're emotional support systems. And if you don't treat them that way, you face serious social judgment. We've built entire industries around this devotion, from luxury pet hotels to pet psychologists. We've normalized spending more on pet healthcare than we might on our own. We've turned pet love into a moral test. If you show any ambivalence, any frustration, any hint that you value human needs over animal needs, you're instantly seen as heartless or selfish. Social media has cranked this up to 11, with people competing to show who loves their pet more. Not posting about your pet makes you look suspicious. Admitting you don't love it? Social annihilation. But here, the brutally honest truth. Not everyone is wired to form intense emotional attachments to animals, and that is not a moral failing. It's a legitimate variation in how human attachment works. Some people get pets due to family pressure, a partner's wishes, or simply not realizing what ownership really entails. And once they have the pet, they feel trapped. They're responsible caretakers, but they don't feel love. The pressure to perform that love creates deep psychological distress. This disconnect comes from 5 key psychological traits. First, low anthropomorphism. These individuals don't tend to attribute human characteristics and emotions to animals. Most pet lovers do this constantly. They see their pet's behaviors as human-like emotions, believing the pet understands and loves them back. But people who don't love their pets see them more realistically, as creatures driven by conditioning and biology, not human-like thoughts. When their dog gets excited, they see a conditioned response to food, not love. A cat's purr is a biological contentment signal, not a declaration of a deep bond. This realistic view makes it impossible to form the intense attachment that requires seeing the pet as an almost human companion. Second, a high need for reciprocity. This group needs genuine, mutual understanding in their relationships. The one-way street of a pet relationship, where the animal is completely dependent and offers only basic behaviors in return, feels satisfying to many. But for others, it feels hollow. They need intellectual connection, Complex communication, mutual growth. A dog doesn't choose you with conscious thought. It bonds through dependency. For people who need real reciprocity, a pet relationship just doesn't cut it. It's not about being incapable of love. It's about needing specific qualities in a relationship that animals, by their nature, can't provide. Third, resentment of imposed obligations and lost freedom. This is especially true when the pet wasn't their idea in the first place. For those who love their pets, these sacrifices are worth it. But for those who don't, every obligation feels like a burden. Every restriction feels like a prison. The resentment builds. They can't just take a weekend trip. They can't move to certain apartments. And since they get no emotional reward, it feels like all cost and no benefit. What's worse is they can't even talk about it. Admitting you resent your pet makes you seem cruel even though you resent the obligation, not the animal itself. Fourth, a different capacity for emotional investment. Some people have a limited emotional bandwidth. They prioritize that limited resource for human relationships, creative work, or personal goals. Investing the energy required for a pet feels like a drain on things that matter more to them. This isn't about being cold. It's about having finite resources and making choices. They'd rather direct their emotional labor towards humans or pursuits that bring them genuine fulfillment. The pet feels like a competitor for their limited time and emotional energy. And fifth, honesty about social performance versus authentic feeling. This trait is an unusual capacity for honest self-assessment. They know the difference between what they actually feel and what they perform for social acceptance. They might post the occasional pet photo or say the right things, but internally they're fully aware it's a performance. This honesty prevents them from trying to convince themselves they feel something they don't. But it also creates huge distress, because they're living with this constant gap between their performance and their reality. When you put these traits together, you get a psychological profile where not loving a pet isn't a moral failure but a predictable outcome. Here's what pet culture desperately doesn't want to admit. Love for pets is not universal, it's not automatic, and it is not a measure of your worth or capacity for compassion. You can be a deeply loving, empathetic person who forms rich human relationships and still not love animals. The truly raw truth is that modern pet culture has become extreme, with people often prioritizing animal comfort over human well-being and using pets as substitutes for human connection. The pressure to love pets intensely has become a form of social control, and it's psychologically harmful. So, what does this mean for you? If you love your pets deeply, that's wonderful. But stop judging people whose emotional responses are different. Stop assuming that not loving a pet is a character flaw. And if you're someone who doesn't love your pet, I hope this provides some relief. You're not broken, cruel, or defective. Your emotional system is just wired differently for animals, and that's okay. You can be a responsible caretaker without feeling love. If you're trapped with a pet you don't want, it's okay to rehome it responsibly. You don't owe anyone fake emotion. We've created a culture where certain emotional responses are mandatory, but you cannot force a genuine feeling. That's not a deficiency, it's diversity. Now I want to hear from you, and this requires real courage. Do you secretly not love your pet but feel unable to admit it? Or do you love your pet but recognize the pressure is extreme? This is a judgment-free space. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. If this gave you permission to be honest about your feelings, hit that like button and subscribe for more raw truths. Next week, the raw truth about people who don't feel patriotic. You won't want to miss it. Remember, your authentic feeling always matters more than performed emotion. Honor it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.